So this is what the pattern for the blouse part of this wedding gown looks like. And as you can see, it's a square neckline. Let me show you a reference photo of the wedding gown. This is the wedding gown my bride wants. She doesn't want the slit in front, and she also doesn't want the neckline to be so wide. Okay, so this is what we're working with. The next thing I went ahead to do was I placed my pattern on my fabric. So for the lace, you know that it's difficult to mark on your lace fabric. So all my joining allowance, I added it to my pattern before cutting it out and placing it on the lace. So after cutting out the back part, this is the around the shoulder line area for the front part. I also added my joining allowance and the allowance to turn it over. I went ahead to place it on my lace. I also went ahead to cut. Now this is what the bustier for the front part looks like. I went ahead to mark out all my joining allowances and I went ahead to cut it out. Let me know if you want a detailed tutorial on how I drafted this square neckline bustier blouse. Okay, so to start the wedding gown, I first of all laid out my bustier pieces for the front part, took it over to my sewing machine, and I joined the center front and the side front together. Okay, so I did same thing for the other side, and everything I did for the main piece I did it to the lining piece as well. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to insert my back up, insert this sleeve I showed you guys earlier, and I turned it over. I'll show you how I turned it over. Just hold on, let me show you the back. Okay, you can see what I did here. I used my lining to turn it over after inserting my back up and boning to the lining piece, not the main piece. Then I gave it a good press. So now this is what the front part looks like. The next thing I did was I grabbed my lace fabric, I placed it the on my front piece. You can see that I wanted that V shape to be around the middle part of the bustier, hence the lace placement. Okay, so I just cut out my working piece, and I first of all secured the middle. Okay, I secured the middle with my pin. After securing the middle with my pin, I made sure everything is relaxed. Okay, then I went ahead to secure the rest part of the lace to the bustier. You want to make sure if you don't have a dress form, you want to make sure you're securing it on every curve, every bend, every groove, any place that is not relaxing. You slash it, you fold, and you spread it in. Okay, so you can see what I did here around the underbust point. I made sure I used my pin to hold everything down. Okay, I held everything down around the underboss, around the edges. And after doing all this, I used my needle and thread to sew it together. Okay, I used my needle and thread to attach the lace to the main piece, not my sewing machine, needle and thread. Okay, I want to make sure you secure around the under all the places that there are pins and all the hemline, all the seam line. You want to make sure you use your needle and thread to secure all those places with invisible stitches, which is what I did here. So after placing the lace on the main piece, you can see how beautiful it looks. You can see the synergy between the lace and this shoulder attachment. Okay, so now this is what it looks like after I laid the lace on the front piece. Now the next thing I went ahead to do was, now this is the back piece, ladies and gentlemen. This is the back piece, and if you remember from the pattern, I closed the dart, so that's why you're not seeing any dart in the back. Okay, so this is the back piece, and the next thing I went ahead to do was I grabbed my front piece. After grabbing my front piece, I placed my back piece on the front piece. I went ahead to mark out the joining allowance I placed on the shoulder and the seam allowance on the side. If for my pattern I added 1 inch seam allowance, so I took it over to my sewing machine and I tried to sew. My needle kept breaking, my thread kept cutting because of the lace fabric, but we move. Okay, so now after struggling with it, I successfully attached the front piece and the back piece of the upper part of this gown. So when I was done with the blouse, this is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the front looked like, and this is what the back looked like. So now it's time for the flared, and I went ahead to cut an asymmetric flared, this high-low flared. I went ahead to cut it, and the next thing I went ahead to do was to join the back pieces together. That's at the zip allowance. Then I joined the back pieces and the front piece together.
After doing this, I secured this to the blouse with several office pins, and I went ahead to join the blouse and the flared together. I went ahead to insert my zip and also my sleeve. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how the wedding gown turned out. She wanted something simple and elegant, and she got just that. This is my sister-in-law, ladies and gentlemen.